Alright everybody, we're back at it again. Christian from Somatics here with you today. And as you have already gathered from the video title, this video is going to be about suffering and how suffering is really a teacher in disguise. First, before we begin this video, I would like to preface by saying that if you are someone who is currently suffering or you're having a really tough time in life and that you are looking to speak with someone to get some support to deal with your issues, I would very much encourage you to check out the description box below. There you will find a link to our Discord server. I know that there's many loving, caring, compassionate and knowledgeable people on there, myself included, who are more than willing to guide you and help you however possible. With that out of the way, I would like to get into what suffering really is. So in my understanding, suffering really intrinsically means resistance to what is. And what is simply what is currently experienced right here and now, okay? So when we are in opposition to what is, when life as we experience it does not harmonize with our expectations, our desires, our beliefs of how we think it should be, well, that is when suffering is experienced. Because we are essentially separating ourselves from how reality really is, and we're viewing reality through our lenses of perception, which are colored by our projections, our beliefs, our identity. And through this lens, our whole sense of the world is misplaced. We mistakenly take the world, our experience, to be the color of the lens that we're wearing, our identity. And in that way, we truly miss the underlying peace and happiness that is very much inherent to our own being, to experience, to life as it is overall. So in this overlooking of our true nature, suffering is the result. It is the consequence of this wrongful identity, this mistake of perception that we so often tend to hold. So I would like to invite you into one of the greatest mantras of my life, which is the notion of allowing everything to be as it is. So just take that in. What would it be like to allow everything to be as it is? And by everything, I mean all the elements of your experience, whether that be perceived as being internal or external to you. All of experience as it is. What would it be like to just leave it? So there's no need to let go of our wrongful thinking or perceiving or our beliefs. It is rather a relaxation of these tendencies and the allowance of everything to be as it is without the need to change anything. So even the resistance to this moment, even the resistance to the shape and forms that life may be taking in your life at this time or at any time, we can simply allow these to be without holding on to them, without identifying with them, without trying to change them. You are beyond that, because in order to even view those things, those resistances, those contractions in your own body-mind, you would have to be beyond those very things, right? You cannot perceive something that is not separate from you in like the line of perception. So you can see all that and just take a deep breath and allow this moment as it is. Yeah. And that is really how always and ever available this peace and happiness really is. And that, in my experience, has been one of the greatest gifts that I could possibly dream of. There are many such gateways that you can use to distill your experience down, to pierce through layers of perception and see clearly in an instant, if you are willing. But I will explore those in future videos. For now, let's focus on the concept of suffering. So, in Buddhism, the Buddha, the historical Buddha, he used the term dukkha to describe suffering. Or actually, I would, in my understanding, go so far as to say that suffering is not the direct or appropriate translation of the word dukkha. Rather, as I have come to find, the word dukkha means dissatisfaction. See, many of us likely have heard the quote saying that life is suffering, and really this quote gets a rather different connotation when you realize the true meaning is that life is dissatisfaction. So by life it is implied that we enter into this incarnation and that we harbor this ego mind. So you see, there are three layers of being, so to speak. You can be below the ego mind, which is typically at the animalistic level, which is below thinking. Then there's the above thinking level, which is that of having an ego mind and being able to self-reflect, right, which is where a lot of humans are at. And then beyond that, there's the transcendence of the ego mind and going beyond thinking, and that is really where life is seen in the right context, where you know life beyond just mere suffering and dissatisfaction, right? So really, I feel in my own experience listening to the words suffering and dissatisfaction, that suffering, the word itself leads to an increased sense of victimhood. Not necessarily, of course, but being dissatisfied with something, it really rather puts the emphasis back on you. Like, who is it that is dissatisfied and why are you dissatisfied? Because suffering, it is easy to point at something and be like, yeah, I'm suffering because of that. Whereas being dissatisfied with something, it's really about your own perception, because we inherently know that one person may consider one thing to be a positive experience, whereas another person may view it negatively. So the discrepancy here is quite clear. But I would really like to take a step back and explore with you how this dissatisfaction even comes into play. So when we are feeling a sense of lack in ourselves, like we are not having this item, this person, this substance in our life, right? Then we feel a sense of lack in ourselves because we are wanting something, and want, the word itself implies lack. So lack means you are not having a certain thing. However, this also implies that you are expecting a certain thing, that you are in disagreement with your current experience as it is. So rather than allowing everything to be as it is, you are wanting to change something. And this wanting to change your current experience through the acquisition of items, money, people, places, drugs, you name it, right? All this is arising on behalf of our misplaced identity. So, as I touched upon already, when we view life through these color lenses, so to speak, when we mistakenly believe ourselves to be a limited sense of being, an identity associated with the ego mind or the body, or that we take cues from other people or the world around us to identify with, well, then we are overlooking our own nature as pure being or awareness, if you will. Standing as our own being, as awareness, it is quite clear that this peace and happiness is abundantly available already as you are. It is not at the end of some acquisition of either an object or person, place, substance, or whatever it could be, right? So our search for those very things stems from our lack of awareness about who we are. Because if we had that apparent awareness of ourselves, we wouldn't be searching for the peace and happiness elsewhere, right? Because why would you be searching for money, fame, objects, substances, people, if what you were searching for in all these things was seen to simply be the peace and happiness that is already available to you before the search of these very things, right? So you could even say that, and this is a famous quote, that we don't see the world as it is, rather we see the world as we are. We see our own projections, our beliefs, our own tinted glasses, so to speak, and we really frame the entirety of reality and our own experience through these limitations, through these lack beliefs about the world and ourselves. So in this, we lose touch with the guidance that is really available to us, because dissatisfaction or suffering is not here to punish you, although coming from a limited sense of identity, it can certainly seem as though life is punishing you. Hence why one of the main questions people will pose to religious people, more often than not, is how can God allow all this suffering in the world? But really that is overlooking the fact that without this suffering, which is really arising on behalf of our own separation from what is, you wouldn't ever be searching for or looking to realize who or what you are, right? So you insist on being a separate being, and that is causing you suffering. So obviously the response from your own being is to try and pull you back through this suffering, to make you question your own limitations, your projections, your beliefs, to make you realize that these are not who you are, and that what you are is already available, right? So I would like to offer you a concept here, which is that really when we suffer or we are dissatisfied, when we are searching, when we are in a state of want, that is to say a state of lack, really it is our inner guiding compass pointing us towards the true north. The true north is our own being, but oftentimes people look towards the south on the compass and look for the objects that they think will fulfill them. They look at the suffering and they're like, I need to find something that will put an end to this. And we will happily look for an object, a person, a location in the world that we may travel to, a substance like a drug or whatever, that we mistakenly believe will fulfill us or fill this gap, this sense of lack in ourselves. And although that may be the case, although the acquisition of one of these things may indeed collapse this search, this sense of lack temporarily, key word being temporarily, we will eventually return to this separation, and we will in turn feel a sense of suffering and dissatisfaction once again. We all know that when we accomplish some goal that we've set our minds to, well, it is only a matter of time before you set a new goal, because the relief, the happiness that you experience from acquiring or achieving a certain thing, well, it is short-lived. You cannot sustain a feeling, because feelings by very nature are temporary. So really, when we suffer, it is our inner compass pointing us in the right direction. It is our own being calling us home. So you could say that when you are suffering or when you are dissatisfied, when you're feeling lack, right? It is really because there is something in you, your identity, a belief that is out of alignment with reality as it is, with your own being, right? So with that, you can start looking at suffering as a gift, as a teacher that is here to gently, or perhaps not so gently, guide you back to yourself. And it is my conviction that really we all incarnate here on earth because we in some manner or respect signed up for this. To what degree that we did so knowingly or not is not clear to me. However, I do believe that the challenges and the things that we are here to grow through has been selected by us on some level, and that we are really here for the purpose of growth and learning. So with that can also come a trust and a faith in that really life is taking care of you, and that you are never given more than you can really tolerate, because on some level you know that you are able to handle this. You've served yourself this platter of food, and so it is only you that can really eat it, right? No one else has served it for you. So you may not like the dish that life is cooking for you, and there's certainly a lot you can do to try and change that, to cook a better meal next time. However, I would like to invite you to really just be with your experience as it is, and perhaps then you may realize that it doesn't taste so bad after all. It is just because we have acquired a very picky palate, and we like to pick things out and focus on those individually rather than taking in a bit of the food altogether, tasting the dish in its entirety as it was meant to be. And so when we can simply taste life, be with life, allow it as it is, that is when happiness and peace is revealed. I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for listening. It's my pleasure to be here with you, and I look forward to being with you again in the next video. Thank you.